Welcome to the HiFLEX Health and Performance podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Chelsea Smith, here to guide you through all things physical therapy and whole body health. At HiFLEX, we believe the Almighty God designed us to move, heal, and thrive. Join me as we dive into pain relief, post-surgical rehab, life lessons, and the key insights I share with my patients every day. Let's move better, heal stronger, and live fully.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Uncaged Clinician podcast. I'm your host, David Bailiff. It is always a pleasure to come to you guys every single week. I have a special guest on with me today. I am pumped for this guest because this girl is a rock star. Dr. Chelsea Smith, physical therapist in Chattanooga, Tennessee, owner of HiFLEX Health and Performance. Chelsea, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to see you, to get to talk to you. I know you are part of our Success Council, but surprisingly, I actually don't get to see you or talk to you all that often. But when we do communicate, man, I love it. It's just great communication. But thank you for being on today. And for those who are listening, again, Chelsea's in Chattanooga. Yes, she is part of our Success Council. The reason why I have her on today is she has been able to just absolutely crush building a relationship with local trainer and gym owner. So want to get into that today. But first, before we do that, Chelsea, why don't you just share a little bit with our audience about HiFLEX and kind of like your target and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so we are a hybrid model. We started as just mobile, and then we added on office space. And now recently, as of pretty much January, we've expanded that office space. So we currently are in a larger facility that offers all things recovery services like cryo and red light. And then there's also a gym owner in there. His name is Blake Woodruff, and he owns Hex Performance. And then there's an acupuncturist in the building. There's a med spa. So it's been a really cool transition just into like-minded professionals who are trying to come together for the common good of just helping people in their recovery process. But as far as HiFLEX specific, so we treat pretty much, I say we treat everything basically outpatient wise. So we see a lot of acute pain. I get a lot of cervical radiculopathy or hip pain or just weird low back stuff. Then we see a lot of post-op, a lot of knee replacements. We see some rotator cuff. We get a lot of just general, I just want to feel better. There's nothing actually wrong. I just want to generally move better as a person. And it just kind of, runs the gamut. It goes in waves of body part like everybody. But I have two other therapists that work with me. So Simon Ibrahim and then Dr. Sarah Peterson. And then my lovely mother is my office admin, and she runs all things out of network billing insurance for us and does all regular cash pay collections. So that's us in a nutshell. Started in 2019, January of 2019. And then, it's crazy. That's already 2024. And we're on year 6 of being in business, which is great.
Wow, year 6, and I can remember when you were first getting started and wondering like, is this even going to work? And now look at you, got an amazing team around you. You're doing wonderfully there in Chattanooga. I know you didn't mention this, but I know you also, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, I do have a lot of gray hairs. I do believe that you have also been instrumental or been influential, if you will, in the swimming world there in Chattanooga and with the triathletes, endurance athletes and whatnot. So I think that's also one of the people who you serve. Definitely. Also.
Yeah, me specific, if I'm in a niche into any sport, it's swimming world. And then I jumped into triathlon a few years back and started treating. We have several triathletes that we were treating this year. Sarah treats a lot of runners, but I did a lot with swimming. And I have a Facebook group. It's got like 3,000 people in it. It's the Swimming Injury Prevention Group. I've just put it a little bit on the back burner for the moment while all this was going and had a baby and all of that, but it's still there. It's still cranking. People ask questions in there. And then locally, I kind of there for a bit. I was treating several swimmers on some of the club teams. And so it just ebbs and flows. But yeah, definitely swimming is more where if somebody comes into me and they're like, hey, I'm a swimmer, I've got this problem. That is my expertise world. Right now we're working with a bunch of softball players. So Chattanooga just got their first pro softball team, which is cool.
Nice.
The Chattanooga theme. And we are having the honor of working on particularly their pitchers and catchers. But anybody that's having any kind of pain or injury, and by the time you're in any kind of a pro sport like that with repetitive throwing, I think we all know they have quite a bit of wear and tear on their shoulders and their knees and things like that. So that's been another fun add on. But I don't know the sport of softball nearly as well. I know the body, but when people come in and they got swimming issues, I can put on my expert hat a little better.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I would think that particularly for softball, the pitching, there's probably some similar mechanics that happen as it does
Mhm.
as does with swimming. So you can help those people out. Man, side note, speaking of Chattanooga, I suddenly have this urge to eat a moon pie for some reason, but
Mm,
so I'm gonna have to get me one of those today, I think. But let's go back to again who you treat. Yeah, you treat a wide variety of people, which you know what, for our listeners, number one, let that be a lesson in that as you first identify the problems that you solve and that you're the expert in that your caseload, if you will, your audience is organically going to expand because other people are going to recognize you as being an expert and they're going to say, hey, like I don't have that specific problem, but can you help me? And I know
mhm.
that is how you've grown because I brought up the swimming because I know initially that was a niche target of yours, but
Oh
it
yeah.
has expanded because you've been so good at letting people know, hey, this is the problem that I solve. And so
Right.
you've grown from there. But from that, what it has led you to is to develop a relationship with a local gym who you now have a physical location
Hmm.
beside that gym and this particular trainer. And I know in the past that you've had other relationships with other gym owners. What was it about this gym owner, Hex,
Hmm.
that you decided to just kind of go all in and focus on this particular relationship?
Yes. So you hit the nail on the head, and a ton of it is divine orchestration of just how this all panned out because I had a relationship with him before this building, but North Spring is what it's called. Um, and then now down the road, we literally share a wall, which is fantastic. So with him in particular, he is a very he's kind of one of those unicorn personal trainers where he absolutely loves biomechanics and knowing the anatomy, and he has the intellect that he could be a PT if he went to PT school. But instead he's in the personal training world. And so what's nice with him is if he had somebody with a problem, he's going to present them to me and say, hey Charles, this is going on, it's limiting our training in this way, or it's really not limiting training but it's messing with other things. What he wants from me is education, which is great. And so when I see somebody for him, I'm going to follow up with him. I'm generally going to give him an overview of what I found in my eval. Um, I've used Complete Anatomy as the app that I like to use, where I'm giving him a literal like overview of looking at the neuroanatomy and the musculoskeletal stuff. And so I'll be talking to him in a video of like, okay, and then when I was assessing here, this is what we found, blah, blah, blah. So then he has just a very all encompassing understanding of what I found and what I'm working on. And then what's so nice is he's savvy enough in the world of biomechanics that I can say, okay, hey, like I was working on this hip and what I would love in training, do it however you would like. But if you can somehow focus on the right deep rotators of the hip and maybe the left lat and work on some sling systems, maybe avoid XYZ, like he's on it. He's like, got it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then he'll immediately put some tweaks into the program where they don't feel like I'm not necessarily in both worlds, if that makes sense. So I'm relaying everything to Blake, which makes him look very savvy and very like involved in their care. But I'm not over there saying, okay, and then instead of doing this, when he tells you to squat, focus on this. He's the one leading all of that education because he understands it and because I've educated him on anything he may not have understood, and vice versa. So when they're coming to me, they just get kind of a seamless experience of, okay, something hurt, she checked me out. Even if they don't fully understand what's going on, they trust that Blake understands what's going on, and then it reflects in their training. And then when they come in the next time, you're like, oh yeah, we did some of this, it kind of looked a little bit like what we were doing in PT. Or yeah, he told me he talked to you, and thank you guys for already talking, and I know that he's already in the loop. So it's just been super nice because we can both wear our own expert hat, where, and people listening to this podcast, I know there's plenty that they're working on personal training and physical therapy, and that's fantastic. I think there's totally a niche for that. I found that I would rather work with the best personal trainer in town and not wear that hat and get them up to a certain level of performance and then transition them over if appropriate. I mean, if they want to stay with us and they don't want to do personal training, we're happy to strengthen them and happy to get them to that point. But it's been really convenient to tee it up that he's the guy you want to go to, and then he tees us up the exact same way of, hey, I know you're paying for personal training with me, but this could move better, could feel better. You need to go see them, and then you need to come right back to me, and we can pick up where we left off. So it's just been that's a long-winded way of saying it's been a very fruitful relationship because both of us are wearing our own expert hats. Both of us are made to look better by the other person. And there's no stepping on toes of, oh, I don't want to change his training and he doesn't want to impact this. So it's worked out incredibly well.
Yeah, I love that you said no stepping on toes, because I literally wrote down a question of, with this relationship, and you did speak on this, but in this relationship, how have you avoided stepping on his toes? How's he avoided stepping on your toes?
Mm-hmm.
But another way to phrase it is, how have you, I guess to be blunt about it, how have you been able to have the humility to say, hey, I don't have to be the person that takes someone through the entire journey. I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm okay with someone else working in a taking the lane further down the road. How
Right.
were you able to really have the humility, drop ego, if you will, and be
Right.
able to develop that type of relationship with this trainer?
So I'm gonna go broad scale and then I'll come in. So I'm gonna say the ultimate is that we very much align on all the big things that are important in life. So
Hmm.
Christ is first for both of us. Our
Hmm.
main mission is getting this person through either a pain cycle or whatever, but the ultimate goal is that they have more of a holistic meeting of their goals efficiently, and that's primarily what we care about. So as far as taking ourselves out of the scenario, the goal is for this person to be healthier, to move better, and to be able to be an active part in their community. And Blake's kind of what he drives home is that his goal is for them to be able to serve in their own community, and you can serve better when you're stronger, when you feel better, when you have discipline. And I love all of that. So I love all the model that he already had. My model is also, hey, I don't want to see you for PT forever. I mean, I'm happy to for maintenance things, but I want you to feel good and feel empowered and move better. So we aligned on that. And then there was kind of just this discussion of, okay, when we were mobile, I can take kettlebells around with me, I can take weights and resistance bands, and I can strengthen someone. But ideally, it's what does that person want? If they want to be in a personal training setting 3 days a week working on hypertrophy and getting stronger, I could do that, but it would be my ego getting in the way saying that because I'm like, ultimately, I'm not going to meet it as well as Blake. And so I think just getting to know him and trusting him and seeing his outcomes, it was a lot easier for me just to be like, I don't need to do this. I could do this, but you'd be better off. I hear you and what your goals are, and I think this is a better solution for you. And people respond well to I guess a lack of ego when they're like, oh, well, thank you for suggesting that. Then I'm happy to go see them. So I think it's just one of those, the more, holding on loosely is a great song also. And, but it's a good concept in life because I could try to keep everybody, but they're going to find out about Blake or they're going to find out about something else. And if they don't feel like it's a suggestion from me, um, and I could have done that. It's like they could have just had more trust in the whole process anyway. So, big
Right.
story is that our vision of trying to bridge the gap between personal training and PT and just healthy lifestyles and where people are at and maximizing benefits for both people. And then just this whole mission of ultimately it's about the person. Can I serve you well so that you can serve other people well? What is the best avenue for that? And in this scenario, it's just worked out really well to we're the pain, the movers, let's look at your mechanics. And then if I can relay that to Blake, he's definitely been, and I say all that with the caveat of we do performance trainings. I mean, it's in the name, health and performance. And Simon works with a bunch of basketball players, and he's gonna kick their butt all the way up to when they need to return to sport because they already have something else that they're going back to. So it goes back to just knowing your audience and who your avatar is, and what is the ultimate goal for that person. So if it's somebody where they check off on their intake form that they're interested in a sports assessment and it's a teenager, well, it makes more sense for Simon to take them all the way through their performance training and then go back to their sport. If it's, a 35-year-old and their goal is weight loss and they are interested in personal training and things like that, we'll get them through performance. But then there's also a price point difference of not everybody can stay in the physical therapy price point forever. And the way that Blake does his billing, it's monthly and you're either 2 or 3 times a week. And so it ends up working better when you can offer up an option that just fits with their goal.
Yeah. Well, what you're speaking to there that I just love And someone just asked this question earlier this week about being able to do this, but you've created a situation where it is truly like the customer focused first. And as you focus in one area, i.e., you being the expert at providing therapy, and Blake being the expert of taking people to the next level when they are healthy and it comes to exercise, now you both can run faster,
Yes.
farther, and because you're working as a team, because you're in a common mission, then really everybody wins, but the customer themselves have an amazing experience, which feeds into word of mouth marketing and gives them something to talk about.
Yeah.
But the relationship itself, what I'm hearing is that number one, it sounds like that you really did your homework on Blake and on Hex, which I would suggest people to do, not to steal your tips of what you might have for people, but also like, does their mission and what they're about, does it mesh with you and your mission? And then finally, does does that person have the audience? Do they own your audience as well?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think that was the huge thing because Chattanooga is an interesting town where, I mean, I swear it feels like there is no more than 3 degrees of separation between everyone. Most of the time
mhm,
it's 2 degrees of separation. It's crazy. I mean, you talk to one person and somewhere the spheres are going to overlap. And so the bulk of how we've always done things is word of mouth marketing. I mean, here and there we've run a Facebook ad a few times and it's just, like it does better with word of mouth. And so when it came down to who has my audience already and do they have something that I'm the solution for, Blake was a perfect fit because he generally does have the audience that is our exact type of avatar. So they tend to be a little more affluent, not always. I mean, some people are just willing to sacrifice to make training a priority and they're training with someone who's a little pricier, things like that. But they tend to be dedicated. They want to feel good. So it's not anybody that you're having to convince them of a buy-in, basically. It's not like in the outpatient clinic where it's like, well, my doc sent me here. I have to do this to get, XYZ accomplished. These are people where they're already carving out time in their day to be disciplined on
mhm.
something. They're already wanting to feel better. They're trying to, pick up their grandkids and run down the stairs and they want to do all the things. And they also tend to know a lot of other people in town. So when he started looping me in, it's like that on itself, it's like we were getting the referrals from Blake, but then the people that his clientele already knows, then they're hearing about us. And so it's just a different way to reach more people. But yeah, that's huge. And like I was telling you guys the other day, there's other trainers that I'm happy to work with anyone, obviously, but if somebody has a very distinctly different market that they're trying to reach and they're not my market, you just kind of end up, and not that it's bad to pour out, but if you're not getting a whole lot back from that relationship and you're just trying to, provide education and do all these things and no one ever converts to a patient or nobody ever, becomes a paying patient, that's great that you have a good relationship and things. But if they're going to, I'm air quoting for people who can't see me,
Mhm.
send you people, but nobody ever becomes a patient, then they feel like well, I'm telling people about you, but if they never convert, then it just doesn't jive for both people. Because they want to be able to refer to somebody that their people are actually going to go see. And so whether it's a price point thing or they need in network or whatever the case is, uh, it just matched super well with Blake because they tend to be people that are going to match up with our price points as well. And like it's all the basics. And they appreciate that we both share the same faith because a lot of people that go work with Blake, I mean, it's like very evident when you look at his space what his values are. So knowing that if a referral comes from Blake, they're like, oh, well, if Blake likes her, that means that she probably has the same beliefs on all these other things. So it's been just kind of a nice mesh. But yeah, if you're looking at going into a gym, I would say don't go based on just, and you can go on style. I think CrossFit's its own little world because people who
Mhm.
CrossFit love CrossFit and they love that you CrossFit if you're a PT. When it's just a generalized personal training thing, you just need to make sure that your audiences are similar. Otherwise, it'd be a lot of spinning wheels to help one or two of their people, but I help a lot of his people and send them right back to him. And vice versa. When someone graduates with us, a lot of times they'll look at training with him. Like I just had someone last week that her mom already trains with him, I I started working on the mother because Blake referred her. So then she heard about me, and so I was working on her, and she's like, I don't know, my mom loves training with him, like, but I don't think I need a trainer. And the more we were talking, I was like, I think you'd really enjoy his program. I think that he's the answer for the solution you're looking for in the personal training world. And now she trains with him, so it's this like little revolving circle of things where she took my advice over her mother's advice to just go right back to Blake.
I love that. You know, so much value there. In looking, number one, looking, say, to go into a space. I know you have your own space, but if you're looking to go into a gym, don't just look for, hey, who has the cheapest rent for me?
Right.
Don't look for, I like to say not every opportunity is an opportunity. So again, the people who they're serving, do they serve the people who you want to serve?
Right.
And just in fairness for the people listening, I don't want the listener to say, oh, well, it sounds like Chelsea just wants to work with the affluent. And so she's
Right.
in that situation. That's not what we're saying, people,
Mm-mm.
because you also heard her say that, hey, there are people who come that maybe it's a stretch for them, but
Oh
guess
yeah.
what? It's important to them. It's what they want. It brings value to their life of what's important to them. And so when people see those things, then the size of their wallet doesn't matter. The size of their bank account doesn't matter. What's important to them is it important to them to
Yes,
receive this type of treatment?
for sure.
And I mean, I've told people many times before that I've had people who've paid my prices who didn't even have a car to get to work. They had to take public
Right.
transportation,
Yep.
but they sought me out because it was important to them to receive a certain type of treatment.
Yes.
Um, in building a relationship with someone, again, it's so important that they have your audience, because if you are if you're trying to build, let's say, a pediatric population, but you would like to have access to some equipment, well, going into a gym where maybe they work with a lot of, the local high level athletes or CrossFitters or whatever, it might not be the best place to have, little kids
Right.
coming into. It might be uncomfortable to have Parkinson's patients
Mm-hmm.
coming in there if that's not the right environment for them. If the gym is one that targets, let's just say, primary women, and if my target audience is working with guys who want to, lift heavy,
Yep.
that might be an awkward situation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just given the two populations there. So
I agree. You want as
absolutely.
low a barrier to entry as possible is kind of how I look at
Mhm.
it, where exactly that you want them to come in and be like, oh, these are already my kind of people. Yes, like they're not power lifters when I'm looking at toddlers. You want them.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, to your point, it does not have to be all affluent. That's a traditional barrier to entry for some people, but not for everyone. We've got plenty of people who they're like, you know what, I can only see you once a month, but I'm determined to see you and only you, so I'm going to make it work. I'm going to sacrifice other places. And so that's the beauty of owning your own business too. And the goal is not everybody's 3 times a week for the next 4 to 6 weeks. It's some people we see twice a week, some people I see once every other week, some people I see monthly with a strong program, and things like that. But with Blake's people, yeah, I think the biggest overlap is they're dedicated, they want to get better, and they trust who they've already invested in. So as far as barrier to entry, it's like if it's already pretty low because it's already something they're already looking at, then if Blake's sitting there and he's just making it even lower barrier to entry because he's talking us up, they don't have any issue just walking through the door and they're like, cool, well, Blake said I should come see you guys. So you just tell me what to do. And it's like, all right, there's no convincing of you need this. So they're ready to go. And it's just, let's get you scheduled for an eval. And vice versa. I try to lower all the barrier to entry of like, oh, personal training can be intimidating. I'm like, not with Blake. Like Blake is going to be your best friend. And so if you can already have low barrier to entry and then be the person that lowers it even more for the other person. I think we were talking about this the other day on our other call of even just on the note of making somebody else look better, also not
Mhm.
taking away from their brand. So another thing I had shown our group that we had done is it's our material, but it's in Blake's branding. So
Yes. Yes,
having a
I'd love
QR,
for you to speak to that of
yeah,
before we wrap up. I'd love for you to speak to that strategy, if you will, that you've implemented to where you've really highlighted Blake and his business to
Yeah.
make him look good,
Yeah.
but it has also served you very well. But that is just it's something that has, in my opinion, has helped to strengthen. I would guess strengthen that relationship even further
Yeah.
and build more trust in the people because of what they're seeing. So please talk about that little thing that you did. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, so the kind of the goal is for us to feel like an extension of Hex services, even though I don't work for Blake, we're not connected. Blake doesn't work for me, but he feels like an extension of HiFLEX. So what we did with our, it's just in a little wrap card, but for flex sessions, which are just 30 minutes and they're kind of an a la carte hands-on things versus full eval, but we put him in there in his gym with his branding, which is all black and sleek looking, so it has HiFLEX on it, but I mean, if you're a Hex client and you're looking around, you don't see something that's like, oh, that's orange and blue and doesn't look anything like Blake's stuff. It looks like his, which just adds another layer of confidence because I think to them it's like, oh, is this part of Hex? And it's like, no, they're right there. But just the fact that it's all kind of this seamless feel. And so what we have is just a QR code that if he has somebody that he's like, hey, you need to go talk to them, if he doesn't want to, group text, or if I'm busy and he can't just send somebody to talk to me right across the hallway or the door, uh, they can just scan the QR code and it goes straight to our landing page that has, intake forms. So we can have their name, date of birth, what's bothering them. It immediately emails us, and then I can just pick up the phone and call them that afternoon. It's like, hey, I saw that Blake sent you. So it just makes it less work for him. So he can talk us up, but he's not having to actually sit there and, talk about our pricing or talk about how to contact us. It's just like, hey, scan this. It hangs in his other gym before we moved. It was just on a little, I don't know, 8x10, and he just had it hanging on the wall. So he's like, hey, just go scan that and it'll connect you over to them. So now it's just on a little card. But I really wanted, the whole goal was he has a very distinct looking brand. It is all black everything. The walls are black, the ceiling is black. It's very sleek. And so I was like, well, it seems silly just to go throw my bright colored things because I don't want to take away from you. So we branded all in his, and he loved it. He was like, this is my branding. It's like, yeah, because I want it to be an extension of your services. So that's kind of how we look at each other of, I don't work for you, you don't work for me. But if people can feel like we're connected and it's just a different arm of what we already offer them, then they already trust it. So they just go and do it, which has been great.
I love that, and in seeing that the other day when you showed us the things that the resources that you have there, what ran through my mind is that from the customer standpoint, they see that, like you said, they see it as an extension. It's something they're going to trust. They
Mhm.
they don't look at it as, oh, he's just trying to scratch somebody else's back, or it doesn't look disingenuous because
Right.
if you've gone into businesses before and then they have a board there that has 30 other businesses of all kind of types and their stuff that looks nothing like, just looks random.
Right.
I could be wrong, but in my opinion, that doesn't come across as, hey, we really support these people, you
Right.
know.
Exactly. It's
Um,
too spread thin. Which, yeah, like, when you go into Starbucks or something and there's like 1,500 flyers of local
right.
businesses, I
Yeah.
look at it, I'm not like, oh, I want to use this one. So, but if I were to go into I don't know, a chiropractor's office and they have one, which is, I mean, I go to a local chiropractor, and the pelvic floor therapist that she sees for, or like sends most of her people to, is who I see. And that's the same kind of style out there. They have majority of just her things there. And it's very much like, we clearly trust this person.
Hmm.
So I didn't ask any questions. It's like, oh, well, I trust you, you trust them. I'll just go there. So I just think it works a lot better than having multiple. And I'm like, I'm not offended if he sends to a different PT. I tell him all the time, I'm like, listen, if you need to send to like an in-network person, at least ask us and we're happy to tell you who we would send to. Or if you already have a relationship with someone, go for it. And now he's like, it's so much better just to send them right here to you. But yeah, no ego. Ego does not, it just doesn't pay out. It may in the short term, but I'm in the long-term game here, and I'm relationships and serving. And so you got to take it out.
Absolutely. You're never going to lose by serving and having humility and doing what's right for your customers. But Chelsea, awesome. Before we wrap up here, if you had to give two or three tips to recap of anyone who's thinking about developing a relationship, with a gym or a trainer, any words of wisdom that you would have for them?
Yeah, I would say if I had to summarize it, it's kind of you're wanting to showcase what makes that relationship worth it anyways. So in their scenario, they value you for your knowledge to take care of their clients. So I try to keep them as active and involved in that as possible. So whether that's educating them, yeah, you don't have to go get a complete anatomy app and literally teach them, but making them look savvy on the case because you've taken the time to share some of your expertise. So I think that's a huge one because that's why they trust you anyway. So make them part of that process. And then just set the scene for buy-in and consistency for both parties by way of making each other look good. So if it's somebody where, you're going into a gym, the more you can be consistent and giving them value as a trainer, maybe it gives them a new edge because they can look at things a little differently, as long as there's that they already trust you. Because I think if you just go and you're like, hey, I'm the PT over here, if you have any problems, just let me know, and that's all they know about you, well, you might get some people if they're really hurt, but I get a lot of people from Blake, they're not really hurt, like something just doesn't move that well. So you want to make each other look good, but you have to do that by getting to know them and educating them and letting them be an active part of the process, I think is the bigger takeaway.
I love that. Yes. And having the humility to allow someone else to look good also.
Mhm.
I kind of think of oftentimes, like, in football, like the left offensive tackle sometimes is one of the highest paid players on the team because they make the quarterback look good. So you make somebody
Right.
else look good, you're going to be rewarded. So we have to be willing to do that. So Chelsea, awesome conversation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for tuning into the HiFLEX Health and Performance podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new to help you move, heal, and thrive. If you'd like to dive deeper into any of these topics, feel free to reach me directly at chelsea@hiflexhealth.com, visit our website, www.hiflexhealth.com, or connect with us on social media. Keep learning, keep moving, and keep healing. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode.